In this episode, I'm excited to share with you my top 10 rules for creators. What's up, friends? Paul here, and today I'm excited to share with you my top 10 rules for creators. These are tips that I think you'll find helpful in your everyday creative life. This podcast is all about the creative journey, tools and tips to help you as you go forth as a creative entrepreneur. So let's not waste any time and dive into this list. But before we do that, I want to share with you why I created this list. So I'm working on creating a planner for creatives and a whole system and philosophy and framework. And as like kind of the backbone of this is this 10 rule system that will help you, get out of a rut or, just keep moving forward. So the first of these 10 rules is progress, not perfection. So progress over perfection. As a perfectionist, this is one of those things that I can struggle with is like, you want to make something great. You want to make something beautiful, but oftentimes it's just a form of procrastination and just letting fear of, not being good enough get in the way of making something good enough. And so my encouragement for you is to start with good enough and to keep building, just keep going, because what they found in studies is that they had I think there's a couple different versions of this, but one study, they had people, I think it was pottery, and they had one group make one perfect, the best pot that they can, and they could spend as much time as they want doing that. And then they had another group just make tons and tons of different pottery. And the group that made a bunch did much better. And I believe it's very similar in the creative world. You want to be able to make a bunch to develop your skills. The same thing goes for, I think they had a group of photographers, and they had one person, one group, take the best picture, and another group just take tons of photos. And the group that took tons of photos did much better. So just like that, you just have to put in the reps. So with this podcast, when I first started, I was just putting in the reps. I'd go week in, week in. And then as time went on, I actually let the perfectionism seep back in. And so I don't think it's one of those things that you think about once and you're good. It's kind of a way of life that you have to instill in yourself and continually work on, work on creating your craft day in and day out. And not let the perfectionism get in the way. Okay, on to rule number 2, less but better. So this idea comes from the designer Dieter Rams. He's one of the people that inspired the designs for Apple, because the designer Johnny Ives of Apple drew a lot of inspiration from Dieter Rams, and he had these 10 rules of design. Maybe that's why I've got my 10 rules for creators is this 10 rules of design. I don't know. Maybe that was the inspiration. Anyways, but he would basically have these 10 rules of design. And one of those rules is less but better, because sometimes you can basically add too much or, just go overboard with something. And then sometimes you just need to strip away the excess and just have this simple design that people can understand, that makes sense. Yes, there's room for creating something beautiful and maybe a little bit more elaborate, but at the same time, you don't want to lose the essence of what you're trying to accomplish in your creation, in your artwork. And I believe less but better is one of those things that you can apply both to your creative process, but also to your business. How can you make it simpler? How can you make things easier to understand? And then rule number 3, monofocus. And this basically means focus on one thing at a time. We are terrible people when we are terrible people. Sorry. You are not a terrible person. I am just, this is a beautiful mess, right? But focus on one thing at a time, because we are not great. That's better than terrible. We're not great at multitasking. Basically, people find that when you try to multitask, you end up doing worse off. So having these focus blocks of time, and this is what I'm hopefully going to be able to convey in the planner is like having these focus blocks that you can structure the things that you need to get done within that time. But also just realizing you have a limited amount of time. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on the things that'll move you ahead, and realizing that is important. And so monofocus, it's that simple. Just do one thing and do that one thing and then move on to the next thing. So right now I'm recording this podcast. That's my one thing right now. Next up, number 4, celebrate the wins. So I believe they've found that people that celebrate wins, it's more likely that you'll get, look for wins and become someone that wins more often. And so who doesn't love celebrating the wins? But I'll also say celebrate the small wins. It doesn't have to be something very elaborate or big. Just like the simple everyday life things, like maybe you hit a new metric or you published a new episode or you did a workout. That's a win. That's a win because that's a step in the direction to the person that you want to become. And I think that's the best thing is like that's winning life is like when you're making progress and not letting perfection get in the way, celebrate those wins. And number 5, kiss it. Keep it stupidly simple. Keep it simple, stupid. This was something that back when I was a choir director, one of my choir members was like, yeah, kiss it, keep it simple. And so that's my recommendation to you is that when you find yourself like not taking action, it's probably because you've overcomplicated things. And so what I like to do in those cases is like take it a step by baby steps, like make it as simple as possible. That's another thing I'm a huge fan of is baby steps. So like, what is the smallest step that you can take today and tomorrow to get closer to your goal? And it's the similar principle to like tiny atomic habits, tiny habits, but like where you want to take the smallest action. So like when you're building a habit, think of like what's the smallest action you can do that'll lead you towards long-term great results. So maybe like if you want to go to the gym more, maybe that's putting your clothes out the night before because that's something very simple. It takes maybe less than 2 minutes to set up so that you're much more likely to go to the gym in the end. So think of that minimum viable thing that you can do. And so that's what I would say. And the other idea is minimum viable information. And this is an idea that basically, if you're trying to do something, do it with like the least amount of information necessary. Because oftentimes we think like we need to research a ton before we can pick up the camera and start recording. But in reality, all you need to do is pick up the camera and start recording and learn as you go. And that's kind of the beauty of the process is like, you can learn as you go. You don't have to like feel like you have to have everything figured out. Because some of the best creators that I look up to, they talk about this iterative process is that like you put something out into the world, it might not be great right now. And you just keep improving it as time goes on. And so that's my recommendation to you is like, keep it simple. You can always iterate as time goes on, but come up with the kind of your MVP, your MVI, what do you need in order to take action? Okay. And number 6 is one of my favorites. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. So this comes from maybe some pain that I came across in my college days when I double booked myself. And it was a very good learning moment because I realized that you have to suffer if you don't put things down and have a clear idea of what's upcoming. And not only that, it's very helpful if you're working on a team or in your family even, because what we've realized is that like oftentimes it's just like a simple action of like taking that time to put something in the calendar that will help everyone be aware of what's upcoming or even yourself so that you don't end up double booking yourself because, then you have to tell one person like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it. And this was like one of those things. I think I had like 2 performances in one night. It's like I was directing one group and I was supposed to be at an important rehearsal on the same day. And so I realized then that it is very important to look ahead and schedule things out, block it out so that people know they can rely on you and that you're there for that. I mean, obviously things come up, life is messy, but at the same time, you want to do your best not to let that be the norm. Okay. Number 7, eliminate distractions. So what I mean by this, similar to Kiss It, but like, I want you to think of eliminating distractions of like, what is the friction that causes you not to create? Like, what is the friction of you like sitting down and hitting record or, starting to draw, starting to paint, whatever your creative process is? What is it that's getting in your way? So for example, for me, when I want to record something, one of the things might be my microphone. Like if I had to bring it out every single time, set it up, or like, the camera here, the lights. So I've made it like so easy to get started. So that's not the problem. So if there's anything that's a problem, it's not that. I've got all these things that like will distract me from getting my work done. And that's also your workspace. Like, are there things that are on your desk that, you need to like move away to clear up the clutter so that you can get your work done? Or is it your digital workspace? Are there like things in your, on your dock that like, or in your, like frequently visited, like you just automatically click on Facebook, for example, that's like, or when you go into a new browser, you automatically type in, different things. So like you want to make it so that when you get to work, you don't have any distractions. Then maybe that means putting away your phone, like put it in another room, or put it on do not disturb mode, and like have like hours where you block out those times. There are a lot of different ways to apply this, but at the root of it, what this means is eliminating distractions is how you get to focus, because what focus is the absence of distractions. And so I think sometimes it's easier to find the negative, those things distracting, than to like visualize what perfect focus looks like. Because I guess like flow might be the closest thing to that. But I think a great way to get into the flow is to eliminate distractions so you set yourself up for a great work session. Okay. Number 8, track what you want to improve. And so it's hard to make progress if you don't know, 1, where you're headed, and 2, how far you've gotten so far. And so sometimes it's good to have some metrics that you can go back to and see like, okay, I've made progress. And sometimes you might have like a goal that's like, I'm trying to remember the terminology, but basically there's like goals that are within your control and goals that are with like outside of your control. Like a good example is like, I want to hit 500,000 subscribers. Not really within your control, but another goal might be make 25 videos. That's within your control. You can make 25 videos, not going to say whether they're great or not, or they're going to help you get to that 500,000 subscribers. But if you don't make 25 videos, you're definitely not going to hit 500,000 subscribers no matter what, because if you don't create content that people will view and then subscribe to you, that wouldn't happen. So you're going to set yourself up for success if you can track those metrics and use that as feedback to help you stay encouraged and again to celebrate the wins as you go. And number 9, give more to get more. So I recently read this book, The Go Giver, and what like basically the overarching thing is that you have to give more in life to receive. And this is something that I found time and time again as a kid. Like I would repair people's computers, and often they would like be like, I was, it would be like very simple repair jobs. Like maybe something wasn't working the right way. I just got in there, fixed it. And then I was like, it didn't take me long, don't worry about it. Or like $5, $10, something really cheap. And then oftentimes I would be surprised at how well they would, pay me back because I gave more than I asked in return. And so sometimes the more you give, like maybe you do a project for free and like don't expect anything in return. And later that leads to more opportunities than you envisioned originally. So sometimes you have to give more in life. And I think it's just a good way of life is like giving more than you expect back, because often we're repaid tenfold what we expect. So oftentimes you have to have that giving spirit, giving in your work, in your family life, in your community, your church. It's just a great way to live, And I think we can all do that more often. And number 10, one of my favorites, play and think in long-term games. So, what does it mean to play and think in long-term games? So it's funny because I started having some beta testers of the new creative planner. And one of the questions I got was it like, if I could kind of dive into what this rule meant. And I think the inspiration came back when I was reading the Navalmanek, basically ideas from Naval Ravikant. And basically he says that you want to play long-term games with long-term people. And I think you can apply this in a variety of ways. So it's like a simple idea. It kind of comes from like compounding interest. So the more you invest in the long term, the dividends you'll see. So like if you put in $1,000 today and invest that in the stock market and you wait 100 plus years, that hopefully will be worth a lot more, but you have to play the waiting game. You have to play the long game. Whereas like if you constantly are like pulling out your money to, buy the latest and greatest iPhone, then you're playing more of a short-term game. And so it's kind of, at a basic level, it's like delaying gratification. Like the world, society talks about like, or like encourages like this instant gratification with like these marketing, fast food. Like it's all about like, let's go, go, go. I'm hungry. I'm going to get that, juicy burger and like the ice cream and not really think about the long-term effects of that. Because it's like long-term, like in the short term, like eating, a juicy burger and like ice cream every day, like once in a while, not really a problem. But if you do it repeatedly over a long stretch of term, like your body's going to start reflecting what you're eating. And so like thinking long-term games, like what is the best version of me eating? What is the best version of me doing? What is the best version of me like living out? I think like it's thinking in like past the first and like the initial cost of something. Because for example, let's say you bought a TV. You might think the initial cost is, the price of the TV. Let's say $500. You got this beautiful flat screen TV. I guess most TVs are flat screen these days. But anyways, you got this beautiful TV. Let's say it's OLED, even better. And so you got this beautiful TV and you just think like, it cost me $500, but it's an amazing thing. What you're not counting is the amount of time that you'll end up spending watching TV. And not to say that like watching TV is like the end of the world or a terrible thing. But I think it's like examples like that, or maybe you're going to, I'm trying to think of a good example, maybe like a video game. Like you think like, I'm going to buy this video game. And you just have to realize that there's also the cost of how much time you're going to spend on that. And so like, you just have to make that decision. Like, is it worth the cost of time that is going to be? And so like I would apply this to your habits and thinking like long-term, is this habit going to be a healthy one or an unhealthy one? Because again, short-term thinking you'll make like decisions for instant gratification. Long-term thinking will make decisions for your best version of yourself, which might mean encountering difficulties in the present moment. And so I think like, you want to think of people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk who would apply themselves to like a single idea that they believe will have lasting impact, instead of like simply looking for immediate gain. Like if someone's looking for immediate gain, they might, start working at like the easiest job that you can get. Whereas like, let's say like a doctor, you're going to get the skills that you need to work at a much higher level. Not to say that like there's anything wrong with like low, different kinds of jobs. But like, I think if you want to go far in a certain field, let's say, you will have to, pay the dividends of learning and the work you need to put in the work. And so like thinking in that long-term way of like, these are the actions that I need to take to get to that goal. Whereas like, if I stop now and like, kind of go halfway, I'm not going to get close to that goal. So just things to keep in mind. And just for fun, I've got a rule number 11, just to be like breaking this 10 rule architecture and go with progress, not perfection. Is number 11, start messy. This is like kind of how this whole podcast came to be. And my encouragement to a lot of creatives is start before you're ready. Start like while things are messy, because you'll learn so much. You'll like, one of the biggest things, when someone tells you something and you like sticks with you, basically when I was a kid, I made a mistake, and this person said something that I don't think I'll ever forget. It was like, we learn from our mistakes. It's so simple, but it's so true. It's like, I made a mistake, I can learn from that. And so don't think of obstacles as a bad thing. Think of them as, okay, I encountered this, and like speak of it in plain language. Like, I made a video and I didn't get the number of views that I expected, something very plain. Or like, I made a video and I got 10 views. What does that mean? Does it mean I'm a bad person? No. It might just mean that either A, the algorithm just didn't pick up the video, or B, maybe I need to find a better way to package this video, whether that's thumbnail, title, and like the delivery of that in the first 10 seconds, the hook, and then the payoff of the video. So like, think of it in very like clear way, and not make it convoluted with like your self-worth, because that's not what it's about. So yeah, start messy, start before you're ready. So yeah, like these are my 10 rules plus an extra one of creators. This might develop a little bit more before I put it into the planner, the system, the philosophy for creators, but it's a work in progress, and I'm excited to share it with you. If you're interested in learning about when it launches, or if you might be interested in beta testing the journal, I'm tempted to do this. We'll see. I've so far just been a kind of word of mouth. I've been getting beta testers, but if you're interested, let me know. I'll have a link in the description that you can sign up to be one of the first people to know when it releases. I'm super excited to create this. This is like one of my passion projects, because I love the creative field and I love productivity. And so I'm hopefully going to merge the two and create something special for creators to help them in their journey to embrace the mess and creative spirit of being a creator. It's a great thing. So yeah. What about you? What's a rule that I forgot to add? What's a rule that like you love to have in your creative workflow? Would love to hear if you have any ideas. Maybe it might make its way on this list. We'll see. Maybe it'll become the 15 rules of creators. We'll see. But anyways, yeah. Hopefully this was helpful. I would love to know what your favorite rule was. Drop it in the comments below. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love to have you in the Messy fam. And until next time, my friends, stay messy.